CollabSphere, don't me. I think you will get the presentation, so all the stuff being here will come to you later. If not, just drop me an email and I will send you the presentation. That's about me. It's me, Thilo Volprich, CEO and founder of Team Technology, home of Teamworker, our product we are producing for. I'm IBM Champion 2018 for the first time, very proud of. And we have been the Beacon Award finalist 2018 with our product. Loving Domino for a long, long time, exactly since 2003. And these are my contact details. So if you have any questions or something like that, just contact me. This is me, so I want to know more about you. Who of you is doing web development already? Okay, who is doing it using a single-page application framework like Angular or React or Vue.JS or any of the other ones? Not so many. Okay, so today what I'd like to show is what I have done on how I have started with web development, how I selected the right framework for me, and then I will switch over to showing all the things you need to get started, because there are so many words you will hear if you start with web development. And I will put a light on all the single words and show you what they are, and then I give you the help to get easily started by doing single-page application web development using Vue.js. Okay, web development has completely reinvented itself in the last 10 years. It's not my opinion, not my idea, but I want to show this was my start with web development while I was an original client-based Domino web developer. The web was HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and for some functionality I used jQuery because it makes it easy to have the DOM manipulation done. So, and then, harsh reality, I started with development, and this is the new world I'm getting to. So, modern web development. It's not done by me, so you find the source where I get this thing from. So, if you're trying to start development, you get all these funky words. Responsive web, okay, we hear about what's responsive is not as hard. CSS, okay, we have preprocessors, we have frameworks. If you think about JavaScript, we have ES6, new typing, new functionalities within JavaScript. We have TypeScript, we have testing functionalities. We have task runners like npm, boot, drum. You have heard about this maybe in the Node.js session. They're always talking about npm. If you don't know what it is, you're completely right here at this session. Then we have package managers. We have different frameworks. These are the three most known frameworks, Angular, React, and Vue.js. But there are a bunch of other ones like Ember, Preact, Inferno, and Uwe always said the script framework of the week, because every week there's a new framework coming out, and it's very hard to find one which will be alive in a year or 2 or 3 years. Nobody can say that one of these would be available in 2 years, but I think that you have a better chance if you choose one of these. Then we have module loader, bundler, Webpack required. And we have some additions like Flux and Redux, and we come to that later. But if you think of that, okay, you think about your time you have to go to pension, and then you're thinking about, okay, maybe it fits without doing all that shitty stuff. So, my thoughts, beautiful embellished. How should I choose from the many options? Why are there so many tools and what will they do? What have I been doing the last years anyway? So I haven't seen it. I haven't expected that. And oh my God, it's going to be a tough road to go. So, which framework to choose? It's not that easy because you're new in a completely new world, and then you have to decide on which framework you will go and start with. Most of us don't have the time to check all of the frameworks, and then it costs you a lot of time. And the bigger players, and these are my impressions, so not globally worthwhile, just my impression and why I have tried Angular in version 1, I have tried Angular in version 4, 5, whatever they call it. Now I have a very continuous renumbering and new versions. I have tried React and I come to Vue.js. The Angular version, the first version, has a very nice syntax. So it was HTML and it was enriched by some properties and it was really good and easy to read, easy to understand. I like it very much. But you have to understand many concepts behind Angular to get into it. So it's not just a page, you have a controller and a service, and you have to understand the difference between the both. And there's an Angular way to do the things. And I don't like it if the people say you have to do it this way. So my opinion, always my opinion. And I tried to make some bigger application, and the applications suddenly become slow. I don't know why. I have changed so little, and then it becomes slow. I don't know why. And someday everything is different. New version. It was really, really bad between version 1 and version 2 of Angular. They completely changed the syntax. They completely changed the concept. Not completely, but they changed a lot. They were breaking changes. And we are Domino developers, we don't like breaking changes. Yeah, you know, we are taking a Domino application built in version 4, put it on a Domino 10 beta server, and it runs. So we don't like breaking changes, and there were a lot. The performancing with the new version is it's getting better. It's really good in Angular now. Especially they have changed, they have worked on the DOM. The DOM is the tree of all the elements within a web page. And they have worked with this DOM, and this is slow. So React started doing it with virtual DOM, so they have it in cache. You can easily check if anything has to change, and then they change just that thing in the real DOM. And that's really fast, and as you can imagine, if you work in the cache, it's more fast than working on a real DOM within the browser. Then I tried React. Okay, new world, not as complicated as Angular, not as over-engineered as I said, but I can't do as much as I can do in Angular, because in Angular there are all things included. By React, I have to choose which other library I would like to use for some functionality. Focuses on the representation. I will explain more later. Much faster than Angular version 1, over to version 2. And the syntax is not that simple, and to be honest, I don't like it. There's a special language you use for creating HTML, so I use a language to create a language. It's not mine. Others like it very much because it's very powerful. You can do a lot of things, but it's not mine. Then I come to Vue. I know the syntax. This was a great experience. I go to Vue and I read the documentation, and it's the same like Angular. The Angular uses properties starting with an A minus something. And Vue starts with a V, Vue minus something, and sometimes they have the same spelling. So it's very easy to go to Vue. It even feels a little bit faster, in my opinion. It's really fast. We have done big applications on Vue, and they are fast. So maybe if it's getting bigger and bigger, this may be a problem, but right now it's amazing fast. And the documentation is super easy to understand. I've never seen any help that was as good as this one. So if you go to the help on the Vue.js side, you even don't need an additional book. You go to the help, they explain what they are doing. Afterwards, they have an example, and it's a simple example, showing especially what they are explaining before. And afterwards, they're doing more complex things. So you really gotta like this kind of documentation. It's best I've ever seen. And I find my way around much faster as a Node to using Vue.js. For me, was the easiest way, starting as a Domino developer. So I'll show you why. All right, let's go. You see more? There's a more objective comparison because this is my opinion. The objective one, it's on the Vue.js side, but they sit together. So the Vue.js guy talk to the people from Angular and talk to the people from React, and they build a table to say, hey, we can do that, and we can handle that. And they do it as long until all of the three said, yes, That's a good comparison. So for all, it's okay, and there you can read more technical stuff. What is Vue.js? So JavaScript library to create web application created by you. Offers many functions of the other frameworks, can be extended by any functionality. That's good. If you need more, you can always have more. Can only be used in specific parts of a website. I think this is wrong translation. Can be used in parts of a website only. It's not meaning it can only be used, it can be used as part of a website only. You don't need to rewrite the whole page. You can just start with little things and Vueify, Vue.js, I don't know. Incredible fast. Yeah, it's not my mother language, so excuse me. It's very fast, very well documented, makes you happy. If you work with this, I have done this presentation sometimes, and afterwards, some people tried it out and they come back and said, "Yeah, you were right. That makes you happy." It's really fun to work with this too. What it's not technically, it's not a framework. It's just a library. Does not have as much functionality as Angular. Okay, and it's not backed by any major company, and that's very important. If you think about the future, you have to decide if this is a good decision for you or not. Because the other ones have Facebook or Google behind, and Vue.js hasn't. It's even new and it's team, so it's not that bad. Vue in one sentence. Okay, free. I think need more space. Vue.js offers directives, I don't know how to spell it in English, this D word, that extends existing HTML tags. In particular, the capability of dynamic data binding. Dynamic data binding is the most important thing why you are doing all that stuff. If you think about web development and you start with your page and you say, H1, starting title is, closing H1, then you start with the next thing, with the next thing, with the next thing, then you mix the data with the representation of the data, because the representation of the data is within your HTML. And what you do with a single page application is you split it. So you use something like a placeholder, or let's say computer text for us. So everybody knows computer text, Domino? So this is the same thing. Within the HTML text, we use placeholders, and then we have a data part where all the data resists it. And you can reuse it and on as many places within the page you like. And if you change something, you only change the data. You don't have to do anything in the page, because this is what the frameworks are for. They are doing it for you. You just switch the data and then the representation of the whole page changes. That's very cool. And what the developers say, the data are the truth. So forget about all the displaying. Okay, that's nice. But if you write in business logic and business applications, the data is the truth. Concentrate on the data. If you want to change them, use any REST API, get back the data, and then do the representation of this in a visual way. But concentrate on the data. And another good thing, you can create your own component, your HTML tags. So you can make a Thilo tag, or you can make a Bob tag, whatever you want. Yeah, it's very cool. How does it look like in real life? So within Vue.js, there are 3 parts which are interesting. We have a template part. It's a green one. Template is for the display, for the representation of the data. We have a script part, and within the script part, we have this data thing where all the key value pairs are. Just name, Thilo, last name, whatever. City where it lives or resists, Munich, and then you can put in all the data. And you have the third part, it's for styling. If you want to have an individual styling within a component or within a special thing you're working with. And as you can see here, it's very easy. We have the title thing within the data. And if you look up there, you see Vue, this is a Vue thing. Vue minus model equals the title. And what that means, so all the things starting with the Vue minus are the Vue things. And what this means is, I I want to have the title as model, so I bind it to this one, and I can write it this way also using this. This. And what happens here? It's an input field. If you type something in the input field, Vue.js takes the changed input because of the Vue model and puts it into title. And then Vue.js takes it and puts it in the place where you would like to display it. So if you, while you're typing, you can see it directly changes. I've made a big mistake today, right, on Sunday. I lost my charger. So this is not my laptop. Thanks to Victor having his laptop, I don't have the code here to show it live, but it's very easy, and there are a lot of things, and I show you URLs where I can directly test it out just by typing, and it works. Do you remember my starting point I showed before? And that's why I like Vue.js, because within one file I have the style thing, I have the HTML thing, and I have the JavaScript thing. So for me it's a perfect fit, and it's not that ugly stuff with all the things in. It's all under Vue.js, most of them. And so for me it's completely clear and very easy to understand. And how is it done? These directives thing, these are the few minor things you can use, and you can use it within existing HTML tags. So like an H1 tag or a span or a div or whatever you have. And there are more than 6 directives, but I show the 6 most important ones. And if you know these 6 ones, you can just start with. It's okay to have these 6. Binds a value to a Vue data property. Can also be written using Vue data property. Just to show an example, input, file model, first name, input. So if you change the input here, all the things you are changing are going to the data, to the property I showed you within the data automatically, just by using this one, Vue model. If you have any questions, please ask at any time. So it's easier if we are on the same thinking or thing page. File bind binds an HTML attribute to the Vue data property used for classes CSS. So the slide before we talked about data, now we're talking about HTML properties. And you can easily overwrite HTML properties. So it's a file bind thing, and then normally you would write it DA for linking. Href is your URL where you want to target to. And if you do the file bind thing, combined with any, so ref, alt, class, title, or whatever, you can, while runtime, change the CSS class which is used. Or you can change the picture which should be displayed by just changing the reference or the CSS class or the picture URL in your system. So you change the data, there you have the URL, the picture is getting from, and you easily do it this way and it works. There's also file HTML, inserts Vue data property of the HTML without encoding. So if you do the data thing we have done 2 slides before, all the HTML and all the things are coming from the data part are encoded because of script problems. If a bad guy tries to hack your site and puts any script code in your input field, for example, doing some bad stuff. So to prevent this, regularly the Vue.js is encoding all the things that nothing can happen, so the script wouldn't run. But if you use HTML, you can use dynamic HTML to show any HTML you have in the data. So it's doubled. So HTML in the data, and then this HTML part into your page. We have Vue if and Vue else. You know what it is. Don't have to explain. It's very easy. You're just writing your condition when to display this, and that's it. So you have a login button, you have a logout button, and you can say for if is logged in, then show, or is not logged in, or else don't show it. So it's very easy to hide things within your page. We have a Vue form, looks over an array of elements. Array, everybody knows an array, so they have different things. The array can contain objects itself, and it's possible to access the value of the object. So easily, we can have an array of strings, and then we can say for every string within our array, please write a line within our app. Or you can, if you have something like people in your array, and the people have different properties like first name, last name, state, whatever, birth date, then you can easily loop over a whole array by saying Vue for persons and people. So people is a part within the data section, and then just getting contact or getting the properties out of this single person. So if you have 10 persons within, just a second, if you have 10 persons within your people array, then there will be 10 spans displayed one after another. Yes?
Is this similar to a repeat, basically, in an X page concept? Is this similar to the repeat in an X page?
Yeah, I think so. Is anyone X page developer?
Yes.
Is it the same?
Also similar, yeah.
Good. Yes. Because I'm not the X page expert. And we have the Vue on thing. No spaces is just to make it clear. Here, no spaces, but to clarify the spelling, I put it in here. Binds an event, on-click, on-change to an element, and establish the connection to JavaScript. So we have the data part in the script thing, and we have methods in the script thing too, and we just easily can call them. I showed it later. So foul on click, so run my fancy dialog, and then we have a method named run my fancy dialog, and it's okay. What we have done until now using direct CSS, we are using HTML, and we are enriching this HTML by dynamically adding data or dynamically adding or extending properties. What we can do with Vue.js also is we can create components. And components is a thing, you create your own HTML tags. So you can create a tag like circle, and then add the properties color and size, and maybe position, X position, Y position. And then you have your component, and within your page you're writing your template, and you can say for all the things in my circles, do a loop and create all the circles on the page, and it's done automatically without doing anything. Consists of the following parts: HTML, script, CSS, same thing as before. I have checked an example on a page where you can directly have access to, and you can see all the concepts working live in the code box in the browser without installing anything. And here you can see I have removed the CSS thing because it's optional, you don't need the CSS thing. Mostly you have one big CSS file, so you don't use it. And you see the different parts of the, and this is done in a Vue file. So if you create a component, you use a .vue file, and there are the three parts you always want to have. It's template, it's script, and it's CSS if you're interested in. And yes, one important thing is, it's very easy. I think for me it's completely understandable, but it's very easy to read. Because it's HTML, we have the placeholders, we have the data, and here we to-do type here is the text. I'm sorry, I'm correcting that afterwards. Yeah, this presentation was made for a smaller PC, not that big one, so it's really not that nice. So within, we have done the to-do list item, and now we have a to-do list. So one list showing different items. And this is what I meant before. I say view if to-dos length, so if we have to-dos, then to-do list item, view for, so we have the list item we created before, view for to-do in to-dos, so we have an array of to-dos here. Key, just to make it unique, we have to add a key, and we give the to-do to the other component, and then all the server side, all the client side is rendered automatically. So if you think about the traffic who is going from the server to the client, it's this. Yeah, because we only need the text files and the template once, this is only once, and afterwards it's just running on the client side. No more rendering on the server side. Communication between components, if you want to talk from a to-do list to a to-do item, you can do it by so-called props, properties. It's too much for the short session today, but if you go to the documentation, you will understand it completely, and I would like to add it here, that you know where to look at. And if you try to get the data back, child to parent communication, it's done by an event driven. So you're throwing an event, and the parent element is listening to that event and reacts on the event. Same here, sorry. It's too much to go into the last detail. And how do we start new modern web development? What do you need? At least you need a development environment, IDE. You need Node.js, NPM, in my opinion, Vue client, Webpack, allow control origin. I'll say more about that in a second. And you need some optional things like Axios, Vuex, Vuex DevTools, and I go into details now. So, you heard about it, Node.js and NPM. What is it? Node.js is a server. It's a very small server. It's based on JavaScript. It's really fast, can handle a lot of things, and you need it for development. While developing Vue.js, mostly you develop on the local machine. And then you have to have a server running on your local machine. This is a Node.js server. And NPM is it's Node's package manager, and it's a scripting language. So it's very easy. You can start the server, you can restart the server, and you can even download all the things you need. So if you are developing in that kind of environment, you always have a black box, a command line on. It's the thing we always have. It's not possible without Node.js, so you need to have it. Node.js provides a server during development. NPM is installed automatically if you do Node.js. And NPM takes a lot of development tasks downloaded here. So it's the English version. I don't know if there's a US version. I'm sorry. And alternatives to do is not possible. You need to have this. You need to have this in React too, I think. Yeah, okay. Development environment, it's your choice, but my selection is Visual Studio Code by Microsoft. Cool tool, it's free, works on every PC, really good stuff. There's a Vue syntax highlight plugin to easily get the colors. The template is green and the script is blue, and if you type in, you can type ahead. So it's easier to develop. If you start with a V-, you get the options which directory you want to use. Download it here, the plugin is here. Alternatives are Atom, Notepad, Sublime, I don't know. How do you spell it? Sublime. And if you choose one of them, check for the availability of syntax highlighting, because it makes your life so much easier and you don't get in trouble while developing. Vue key and the web server. This is cool. This is cool stuff. Because all the things I had said to you before, we need something like a bundler, and we need NPM, and we need all the stuff. This tool creates a completely new project for you. completely new project by doing some command line. And then you have a project structure with all the files on the right places. So you have an index file starting at the right point, an app file starting laying at the right point. You have two components, and you just can see how it works, and you easily can check it. It creates a foundation of Vue.js and SPA application. So there are templates. So if you use the Vue client, there are different templates available. You can start with a very easy one. You can start with a more complex one. My opinion is I show you the next slide, which one is the right one to start, in my opinion. Automatically integrates Webpack and dev server. Great stuff. I show you more in a second. Including hot reload. Really great stuff. And downloads, that's the best part. You don't have to download anything anymore. If you are a developer on a modern framework, it's Angular, it's React, or is it Vue.js, it's always the same. You don't download anything. You're just using NPM, package manager. He handles everything for you. So if you want to extend the functionality of your application, you can see if there is an existing module you can use, and then just type in npm install your new module, and then you can import it and work with it. So Excel functionality or graphing things or whatever you like. You always use npm. You don't go to any website in Hong Kong or in the bad states. The Russian states are the bad states because I'm looking for the US side. So you don't have to download from the Russian side, you just use npm install and it works. So in this case, we are using the Vue client. We want to have this functionality of the Vue client, so we say npm install -g. -g is an option to install it globally, and it's not installed into your project, it's globally, and you can use it in any project you like. And because we are creating new projects, we have no project to put it in, so we have to install it globally. It can be used within any project. Step 1, create a project, how to do it. It's very easy. Typing in Vue. This is our new tool we recently installed using npm install Vue. Vue, init, Webpack, kickstart. So, Vue is the commando that is the Vue client. Init means create a new project. Webpack means this is the template I like to use. And the Webpack one is very good because there's some more functionality included in your project without the hassle to do it on your own. So you get the project. And then the last one is the name. So I want to name it Kickstart because it's really fast. This one creates a subdirectory named Kickstart, including all necessary files and configurations. So afterwards, go to the right position, so we go into the project. And then we have to do the dependencies. So if you create a new project, there's one file, it's a properties file, describing which modules you want to use. And by using the Webpack, there are some modules already in use and you need them. So in these property files, there is information which modules you use within development and which modules you use if you deploy the things. And so it's just a description. Use this module, use this module, use this module. Just a description. And by entering npm install once, all the needed modules are downloaded automatically. So you have all on your machine and it works. Your Kickstart project is done. It's not doing much, but it's done. And you can see how it works. So these 3 steps, then your machine has its first completely done Vue.js project and it's completely running and working. And how can you see the result? There are 2 things. If you are a developer running in development mode, you just start by npm run dev. If you do so, then the Node.js server in the backend is loaded. All the files are prepared to show the data to you. And then it takes some time, target is always the current directory, okay, automatically starts the default browser, hopefully not DE. So if you type npm run dev, get a coffee, come back, and then it's running. So in the black box you see server is running, showing the URL you can go to. In the browser you see the result. If you then go to your project and change any of the data, we have a hot reload. So within the browser, you see immediately the changes you have done in the code. So you always have the browser on. On the other monitor, you have your code. You can change the code and you see the result on the other side. And all the important files are within the source directory. You can see it. Change a file, see changes in the browser. So the first time if you do it, that you change something and you see it in the browser without doing anything, it's really great. And why the hell do we use Webpack? So I have talked about Webpack sometimes. If you think about all the components and we have styles in the components, and we have a CSS file for using Bootstrap, and we have a CSS file for handling another thing. If you have this all on your page, and you start your page the first time, all the CSS files are downloaded one after another. So there is no concurrent not at the same time. So they are downloaded one after another. And what Webpack does is they find all the JSS files and all the CSS files and bundles them to one file. So you have one JS file, one CSS file, and it's all included. So you don't have the hassle to have as many downloads. Vue loader are ready for deployment. Vue loader is included. Convert Vue.js, Vue to JS, because we have Vue files, and by using the Vue loader is included into the Webpack thing, it converts the code you have scripted within your files to a JavaScript file, because browsers don't know Vue, they just know JavaScript. Takes the dependencies and bundles them too. So if you use the module within your script, then the module is packed into the resulting file too. So you don't have to do anything. And you can find the results in the directory dist static. So this is dist. It's always dist. So source is the source files. Dist are the destination files, or I don't know what dist stands. Distribution. Ah, thank you. So I don't thank you. And to get this, just start by npm run build, not npm run dev, what we have done before for the development. Now we do npm run build, and then it's compiled once, and you can find all the results in the dist folder. Picture from the Webpack side shows this. All the different things are, they find out the dependencies, and then they bundle it to single files. What else helps in development? Browser. I use Chrome, like it much. There's one extension, allow control, allow origin is star. This is if you have a local Domino server and you want to access the local server, and this is using a different port. Chrome says you are not allowed because of cross-site scripting things. And by using this tool, you can disable this functionality, and then it works. Extension, Vue.js DevTools, see Vue.js details. So it's an extension for the browser, like the developer tools. Within the browser, there's a Vue tab, and then you can see all the data, all the events, all what's happening in the background. Axios, I like much. It's easy communication using HTTP. So if you want to access data from any server, any REST API you are accessing to, you can use Axios and just putting into the endpoint, and you get the result there. It's very easy. And Vuex, it's for more complex systems. You have heard about Flux at the first side on the React side. It's a data store. So right now we have the data within one component. There's the data part. And with Vuex, you have one data container used by all the components within the application. So you can have the data at one place. It's easier if you do it. And how to get the Domino data? You know it. There, it's Domino. So you have at least 5 ways to get the data. So you can use a web service provider. You can X pages with X REST service control. I hope this is right because I'm not an X page developer. You can use Smart NSF, an open NTF solution. You can use agents. You can use URL commands. You can use Node.js, and whatever will come with Domino 10. So if you have another idea, I think there are many other things you can use to get the data. And the data is always JSON. So if you work in web development, it's always JSON. Background, doing modern web development, the data is stored as JSON anytime. This data must be provided by Domino if you want to access Domino. Retrieving the data is done via REST API. Try Axios for this. If you want to install Axios, that was the tool I told before. If you want to install it, npm install Axios. Very easy. Then you have the module, then you can use it. Load the data on the event you like, init, change, whatever. You can say, if the site is loaded, or before the site is loaded, or before the site is, the DOM is created. You can put into your code on the place you would like to have it. And here are, if you go there, you see all the events you can use where you can put the things in. So, site is loading, you say on init, I would like to grab some data from the Domino server, you grab the data, put them in the data, and all the representations are ready. Developer tips, these are things that help me saving time. If you try to access a Domino application, what's really, really worse is the authentication thing. So if you have done it before, it's okay, but it's not that easy to authenticate by using REST APIs. So if you want to have it easy, allow anonymous access to the target nodes database in the ACL, so ACL anonymous as editor or whatever. If you use an agent for the dataset run in the name of, so to switch the person who is running, and then you can say, it's me, because I'm accessing anonymous, and by setting this, it's done in the name of admin whatever developer. If you use an agent, write correct JSON response using first code line. It's very important. Sometimes Domino adds some things to the response. So if you don't want to have this response, this has to be the first line on your agent, and then there's nothing added by the Domino server. Nothing added, not in. Yeah? Okay. These are the things on the Domino side. How to deploy? How do I get the data out? I run npm run build, and if I do so, I find all the created files in which folder? This folder. Thank you. Yeah, I kept asking if someone is listening. So it says just for me. And copy the context of this index, HTML to a Domino design element. You can use a page or an agent. I prefer an agent because I can do some dynamic manipulation, but you can use a page also, just copy and paste it. And then you have all the files you have to put into the Domino database, and it's a hassle to get it one after another. So there's one trick you can use: change the view, change to the package explorer view. I don't know if you have done this before. You can switch the view in the Eclipse client to packager, then find your application, go to the copy all the elements from the this directory to this place here, the places within your app. There's a web content folder. So if you switch to the package explorer view, you can find your application, there's a folder web content, and there you put in all the disk files. So just copying, or I think drag and drop is working in some design clients, not in every. I don't know if it works on 853 or 9 starting 901, I don't know. But you can do it by by drag and drop sometimes too. And very important, set back HCL settings for anonymous and the agent settings for sure if you're going to have it. That's it. It was a lot, I think. It was a lot. But if you follow these instructions and use these tools, you have the first project running. And that's the important thing. So if I want to try to show you some code, I have to leave other things out. So for me, it's important. If you follow these steps, you have the first running application. You even can put it into a Domino application. You can see how it works. And it's very easy by using the example. You can access it by using the URL. And you can see how the stuff works and how it works together. Because I only spit it out. So, thank you for listening.
Can you go back to the second last slide?
I don't know how to do it.
That's good.
I get confused in that part about copying to the page and agent, copying the text to HTML. What would you copy to the agent? Just stick a string
Node.js.
to HTML?
Yeah, they're different. You can